Hi Jennie, can you tell me who you lost through suicide?
Yeah, I lost my dad to suicide about 13 years ago this year, and during that time I've lost quite a few friends to suicide, so unfortunately it's really touched my life over the last 13 years.
And what's your dad's name?
His name is Sean. Yeah.
And can you tell me a bit about Sean?
Yeah, he was amazing. He was my dad, and like most people think their dads are amazing, but he really was. He was a hero to me and everybody who knew him. You know, he was highly involved in fundraising and trying to help people throughout his life. He always did fundraising and parachute jumps, marathons, anything he could do to help, he always did. So, you know, it was devastating to us as a family, but it was devastating to a lot of people that he knew.
And what age was Sean?
He was 54 when he died.
And do you remember where you were when you heard the news?
Yeah. It was Monday morning, the 13th of October, and he hadn't been good for a few days. He wasn't well in himself, and he left the house, so we went out to look for him. And we realised then what had happened. We seen a police car and we knew instantly what happened to him. You know, myself and my brother went out looking for him that morning. And it's probably a vision that will stay with me for the rest of my life, when we looked at each other and we realised.
And do you remember the first thing you thought when you realised what just happened?
I don't think I thought anything. I just, you know, like our world just stopped there. Like it was like time just froze. We were just, you know, it was just, I don't know, it was, I don't think there's words to explain that feeling, that initial feeling when you lose somebody to suicide, that realisation that they're gone, or, you know, that they chose not to be with you. It's very hard to actually explain what that feels like. You know, I don't think I've ever felt a physical or emotional pain quite as bad as that felt that morning. And it continues to feel throughout the years. You know, you're always kind of brought back to that feeling. So, you know, if you hear of somebody who's died by suicide, you instantly feel that feeling for them. It's like you're drowning inside your own body. It's a very surreal feeling.
And how do you think, your family how your family coping with the loss? After losing Sean?
For a very long time we didn't cope. For a very long time we just, I suppose we shut ourselves off from the outside world. We became very self-contained. You know, we didn't, you know, we kept that hurt within our family. We didn't want anyone else's involvement. It was a very personal grief for us, you know. I think you're always afraid. You're always afraid that might happen again. So you try to just surround yourself with people that you love, like, and you don't ever, like, if somebody went to the shop, you'd fear that they were never going to come back, you know. And we went through that. We slept in the same bedroom probably for a year after my dad died. My brother, my mom, my sister, like, it was horrific. It was, you know, we didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go to work, you know. Sometimes I'd get up and go to work and I'd just walk for hours, and, you know, that became our lives for a very long time. And then I suppose throughout the years we just became, from somewhere we got this strength to push on through, you know. Life changed, different people came into our world, you know, it made it a little bit better. You know, it doesn't get any easier, but you just learn to live every day as it is, and, you know, his memory will always be alive within us, you know, so.
Do you remember the last conversation you had with Sean?
Yeah. We, the last thing he said to us was before I went to bed that night. He called each of us back and gave us a second hug. He loved to hug, like, he loved to give you a hug. That was his thing. He'd drive you crazy sometimes, you know. He always wanted to hug you and tell you that he loved you. So that night, the Sunday night before he died, he called us back for one extra hug. But, you know, throughout the days before he died, we would have spent a lot of the time just cuddling into him and telling him that we loved him. Like, but we never thought that was going to be the last time that you would ever tell him, or, you know, you just thought that love was going to get him through it, that was going to make him come back from. Sorry. you. Sorry.
Are you okay to continue that?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel anger towards Sean?
Yeah. Yeah, anger is probably one of the biggest emotions that you feel when you lose somebody to suicide. And I don't know whether it's angry at him or angry at the world for making him feel the way he felt. You know, but anger is definitely one of the biggest things that you feel.
And if you had a chance to speak to Sean now, what would you say to him?
Oh, there's so many things that I would say to him. You know, you're always left with that, like if I had said this or I had done this, and you know, that's what suicide does to people. You know, it leaves you with all these questions, all these whys, how, if, what if I had done this, what if I had done that, you know. You know, so if he was here today, I'd probably tell him, you know, nothing is ever that bad. Nothing. There's nothing in life that, you know, that you can't fix, like if you work together. Like, you know, if you talk about it, if you take it off your chest, get rid of it, you know, don't carry it around with you anymore. Like you can only carry things for so long before it gets too heavy that you can't carry it anymore. You know, we all loved him. He knew that we loved him. You know, we loved him more than anything in the world. You know, and I just wish that he hadn't chose the way that he had. Like, there's so many options available.
And if I just ask you, why are you sharing this story? Why are you talking about this?
I just think it's really important for people to know the effects that suicide has on those who are left behind. You know, I have no doubt that when my dad chose to not be here anymore, that he thought that that was going to benefit us in some way, that maybe we'd be better off if he wasn't here. But I'm sure he would have never done what he'd done had he known the effect that it had on the rest of us that he left behind. You know, I know that he wouldn't have made that choice. You know, so for anyone who is feeling that way, if they feel that that's their only option, they just need to rethink. Just go and speak to somebody. Just go and speak to somebody. You don't want to put people through this unnecessary pain, because that's what it is. There's nothing that you can't fix. There really isn't.
And I don't know if you remember, do you think Sean ever tried to reach out to someone before he decided to take his life? Was there any signs or anything?
I don't know. You see, things become the norm, don't they? Like everyday things become normal things. You know, if you have a couple of drinks at the weekend, you know, he might have a couple of drinks the weekend and he'd get upset about things, and then you just put it down to the fact that he's had a couple of drinks, so he's upset. But we didn't know that that was him trying to release. You know, trying to maybe tell us that something wasn't right. You know, and which is what a lot of people do. They start taking drugs or they start drinking to try and release some of that pressure or that stress that they're going through. You know, and that's, you know, if you wake up the next morning and you don't want to talk about it and you want to go back and you want to hide all those feelings again, it's very easy to blame a substance on something. You know, so which is why a lot of people would release stress and tension when they drink, or you know, so it can be used as a smokescreen, some way of hiding things. And you know, and that's, he would start drinking at the weekends, or maybe he'd have a couple of drinks during the week and he'd get a little bit upset. But you know, you just then put it down to the few drinks. You know, he's just upset because he's after having a couple of drinks, he'd be fine, you know. But like, had he have just said, like, I don't feel good, you know, had he have just said, I don't feel good, like, I have all this going on in my head and I don't know what to do with it, like, you know, there's always somebody ready to listen, ready to take that burden off you. You know, and any one of us would have climbed mountains for him, like, we would have done anything.
Just before we finish off, what advice would you give anyone that's watching this, anyone that's going through this?
Talk about it. Just talk about how you're feeling. For if you feel that there's no help available, there's so much help available. You know, talk to people. Don't carry it on your own. There's no need to carry it on your own. You don't need to carry that pain. You know, like a problem shared is a problem halved, and I'm a firm believer of that. You know, and for anyone who is feeling suicidal or they are feeling really down themselves, just reach out. Just reach out. And for everybody else, you know, everyone can do their part to help people who are not feeling good in themselves. Like a simple smile makes all the difference to people. You know, and like when my dad died, when he took his own life, I didn't want to know about suicide. I hated the term, I hated suicide, I hated the word, I hated everything that was to do with suicide or taking your own lives. But then, you know, when my friend took her own life, I started to look more into suicide or what makes people do certain things, or, you know, and I remember reading a story about a guy who was walking to the Golden Gate Bridge, and he was going to the Golden Gate Bridge to take his own life. And when he did take his own life from the bridge, he jumped from the bridge, they found a note which said, if somebody smiles at me on my way to the bridge today, I won't take my own life. So that's all that man needed, was just a simple smile, and the simple smile is so important. It can make such a big difference to people's lives.